Tonight on Horizon, ASU and the Mayo Clinic expand their partnership with a new medical school. A local economist shares her forecast for Arizona's growth, and the Centennial Theater Foundation is bringing Arizona stories to the stage. It's all coming up next on Horizon. Tonight's edition of Arizona Art Beat shines the spotlight on the Centennial Theater Foundation. The group's mission is to produce plays about the Arizona experience. Designated an official state Centennial Legacy Project, Foundation launches this Saturday with the staged reading of a play about the Wallace and Ladmo Show. Here with more is Ben Tyler, longtime Arizona playwright and executive director of the Centennial Theater Foundation. Good to see you. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, Ted. Well said.
Well, thank you. Let's keep saying it then. What is the Centennial Theater Foundation?
Well, I have been writing plays about Arizona myself for quite a while. Goes back to the early 90s with Gov the Musical. And it's something that's always been my special interest, is writing plays about this area. And so when the Centennial started rolling around, I thought, I would really like to see more playwrights doing this and more theater companies producing them. The hit on Arizona has always been everyone is from somewhere else, right? Mm-hmm. And that there really is no Arizona identification. You think of someone from Chicago or someone from New York or, those kind of cities, and you think a particular kind of thing. Well, it's not that way anymore with Arizona. So when we say defining Arizona through live theater, that's really what we mean is plays that are not necessarily historical in nature, although that's my particular bent, but plays that define the people in the region and what Arizona is.
So how often would these plays be presented?
That's a great question, Ted. I don't know. I mean, it's rather, it's a little audacious to call yourself a foundation when no lady has died and left you a pot of money. It's got to start sometime. So, I would like to see us at least doing something once a year, but we have about a half a dozen theater companies now that are listed with us as participating theater companies. And the way it works, just briefly, in a nutshell, is that we are soliciting scripts, Arizona-themed plays. We develop them through staged readings, taking them around the state. The foundation does this. And then at that point, once the play's been developed and kind of polished a little bit, if one of these participating theater companies wants to produce it, the foundation pays for the production.
Interesting. So you're basically auditioning these things for the theater companies.
Absolutely.
And the theater companies are expressing interest.
Yes, we have a few right now. I'm working with Desert Foothills Theater in Carefree, Actors Theater, Phoenix, who works just down the street from here at the Herberger. They're co-producing the Wallace and Ladmo Show. And then we have another play, a one-man show about Senator Barry Goldwater that's going to be produced by Arizona Jewish Theater Company, at least as a staged reading in November.
You mentioned funding and you mentioned the foundation. That's a very encouraging word on
Yes.
your part. How is this funded and how is that going to affect what gets done?
You sound like every theater producer in town that I've talked to. Where's the money coming from, Ben? Well, that's a great question. Our Centennial is so underfunded right now. As you know, Arizona is strapped. Mm-hmm. I have the greatest fear that our Centennial celebration is going to be 2 bottle rockets and a boombox. So I am approaching the private sector and saying, this is something that these plays can be ambassadors for Arizona. I grew up here, I've been born and raised here. We get a bad hit from the rest of the country due to people like Ev Meekum and some other elected officials who are still around that I won't mention their names. And I think that there's so much to be proud of this state. And that's what I think these plays can do. So that's why we're going to be calling on the private sector to step up to the plate and fund some of these things.
We're looking at some stills here. We had Gov the Musical. People, anyone who was here at the time remembers that. They remember Mr. Conservative Barry Goldwater.
Yes.
They remember Escape from Papago Park.
God bless you, Ted.
I remember all that stuff. And then you got the Wallace and Ladmo Show, which arguably, except for maybe Gov, would be probably the most popular, you think?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. Why? Why are you doing this?
I worked for the Wallace and Ladmo Show for just a couple of years. But I go back further. We're doing this staged reading at the very first television station that was ever built in Arizona and operated, the old KPHO building at First Avenue and Roosevelt.
This is Saturday, right?
Correct,
Okay.
October 1st. I was 8 years old in 1965. I got my postcard was pulled out of the barrel. My mom drove me down to that TV station. I walked into that building. This was pre-Ladmo bag.
Sure.
And I got to pick a toy from the toy cottage. Now here I am, 55 years old, and I'm going back into that same building with Wallace and Pat, and we are going to be doing a staged reading of the play, The Wallace and Ladmo Show, for about 100 people, and we're also doing a pay-per-view of a webcast for this, for the people who live out of state, who grew up with Wallace and Ladmo. And that is the kind of stuff that really just turns my crank, Ted. I tell you, I mean, to think that I was 8 years old, I walked in that building, and now here I am coming back 47 years later with this play.
And we've got the website up here now. If you're interested in helping out this effort and learning more about the Centennial Foundation, that's where you go.
We have about 50 tickets left. Everybody who shows up for this event gets a Ladmo bag. They get to watch the play with Wallace and Pat, and I have a hunch that Wallace and Pat would probably autograph their Ladmo bag on the way out.
I bet you they would. I bet you they'd be the last ones to leave, too, because they love their family. Last question, just from an artistic standpoint.
Yes.
You've written about all this Arizona history, from escaped POWs to a kids show.
Yeah.
You ever want to write Cat on a Hot Tin Cactus or something like that? I mean, is that in your future, or is this have you found your niche?
History has been kind of my bent, but I do have an idea. I have ideas for plays that are fictitious. They're always going to be Arizona themed, some way, somehow.
Yeah.
Very quickly, my wife and I spent our honeymoon at the San Carlos Hotel. I'm standing there looking at this picture of Mae West sitting on the front desk, and the guy says, "Well, you know, that's not really Mae West, it's a Mae West lookalike." When they opened the movie here at the Orpheum, the studio went out and hired a bunch of Mae West lookalikes and had them drive around and wave at people. And everybody, and I thought, what a great idea for a farce.
Yeah.
It takes place in a hotel. Everyone thinks that Mae West is in town.
There
Only
you go.
She's not.
Off and running.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, good luck with this, and we'll keep
Thank
an eye
you.
on what you're doing and what's getting produced, and good luck Saturday with Wallace and Ladmo.
Thank you very much.
All right, good to